Certain foods will make you want to eat more. They awaken the phenomenon of craving. My unhealthy relationship with food started very early in life. By the time I was in grade 9, people would spit at me and throw pop cans at me and call me names.
Hi, I'm Christine Nicholson, the CNIC of CNIC Route. You've heard me share that I've struggled with many addictions, and one of them include food. Maybe you can relate? Well, although we're not affiliated with any 12-step programs, I'm a huge fan of Overeaters Anonymous, or OA for short. Now, who you just heard is Dorit P., a 50-year-old mother and retiree who was once morbidly obese and will now share her experience, strength, and hope with the help of OA. Here's Dorit P., y'all. Hello, Dorit. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Christine.
Fantastic. Well, we're definitely going to go into your story. We spoke a little bit before. Not a lot of people know about Overeaters Anonymous, what it's for, who it's for, and I think you're a great representative. You've helped me out. I remember when I first joined, you were the person that helped me in the newcomer meeting. How long have you been going to Overeaters Anonymous?
I started last spring, so it's almost been a year now.
How long have you had your problem? Is it compulsive overeating that was generally your problem?
I have a complicated history with food. So I am both a compulsive overeater who grazes and binges, but I also manifest my disease by restricting and not eating for months at a time.
I can identify with that. Yes, absolutely. So how many meetings do you typically make in a week?
I try to go to one meeting a day, 6 days a week. So on Thursdays, I don't go to any meetings.
Okay, so you've got your day off. And what keeps you returning to those meetings?
Christine, the answer is so easy. It's my recovery. Mm-hmm. I do service at meetings, and my mentor has steadfastly maintained that working step 12 is the only guarantee to staying recovered. So awesome. My recovery is the most important thing in my life. My connection to my higher power has brought sanity and joy into my life, and I'm not letting that go. If it means I have to go to a meeting a day, then that's the price I pay.
I love that. And step 12 is the step that discusses helping others, right?
That's right. Okay. Passing the message on to other people who are still suffering.
Well, why did you choose Overeaters Anonymous versus another diet program?
I've tried many diets in my life. And in fact, when I first came into OA 28 years ago, I thought it was a diet club and I used it as a diet club. I dieted with friends and left OA, and my disease got progressively worse for 28 years. So when I came back to OA last year, I knew I needed something different in my life. And I knew that I needed a spiritual shift because that's what people who had what I want claimed that it had helped them. They said that they had a spiritual shift and had found peace of mind and had found food neutrality. And I wanted both those things.
Can you explain exactly what food neutrality means?
In OA, we believe that there are certain foods that our bodies have an allergic reaction to. And the word allergic is used the old-fashioned way to mean an abnormal reaction to certain foods. A normal reaction to eating is that you feel full, you're satiated, and you push the food away. But for the compulsive eater, and that means 10% of the North American population, certain foods create a different reaction in the body. Certain foods will make you want to eat more. They awaken the phenomenon of craving. And you can't stop eating when you start. So food neutrality is to not activate that phenomenon of craving and not have to eat a cookie or because you're seeing someone else eat it. I can go into a pastry store now and have a coffee and watch my daughter eat the foods that I used to binge on, but I don't even think of that as my food anymore. I have food neutrality now.
I'm still working on that, but I love that. I would love to feel that day when I have food neutrality. I mean, that's an amazing feeling. I'm sure it's one of peace. Can we get just a general idea of who you are? Just give me a typical day in the life of Dorit and everything, including recovery meetings or anything like that.
So I do a lot of service for OA. I don't work right now. I used to be a mental health counselor for children and youth, but I'm not working now. I'm semi-retired. And I spend 6 days a week really working the program hard, about 5 to 7 hours a day. I have 10 sponsees. I serve in meetings, and I go to 2 meetings a week that I don't serve at, but I feed myself on.
Wow.
The other meetings I give, but on 2 meetings a week I get. So my days are very full of work for OA. For example, yesterday I had 5 Zoom meetings with my sponsees who are working their steps. And I had 1 Zoom meeting with a fellow who's struggling with the program and had some questions that she wanted answered. And I also make time in my day to hang out with friends. I love coffee shops. And so I went and had coffee with a friend of mine yesterday. And before that, I had a yoga class. So I had a very full day yesterday.
I love it. What a nice, sweet life. I've got a chance to hear your magnificent story, and I would love for you to share it with the audience. So go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Christine. So like you said, my name is Dorit, and I'm a compulsive overeater and restrictor. And my unhealthy relationship with food started very early in life. I was 7 years old when I remember eating compulsively for the first time. I don't know if it was the first time that I had eaten compulsively, but it was the first time that I remember. And my compulsive eating was all about numbing my fear, because I come from a family culture of fear. My father is a Jew who survived World War II in Poland, and that has really affected his worldview. And he sees life as a struggle and a fight and a war, and very dangerous. He sees life as very dangerous. And my mother has social anxiety, and she passed her fears on to me as my father did his fears. So from a very young age, I felt unsafe. I felt that living was unsafe and acting was unsafe. And I would eat to numb that fear so that I could go out and do things that sometimes my parents should have done but weren't doing. And I, at the age of 7, started to take care of them. So by the time I was a teenager, I started to look visibly round. I look at pictures now and I don't think I was fat, but I was big enough that I was bigger than other girls, and I got bullied at school. By the time I was in grade 9, people would spit at me and throw pop cans at me and call me names. And I was very, very sad. And I went on my first diet. And I felt incredible power in restricting my food. I felt worthy for the first time in my life. I felt like I was finally doing the right thing. And I was very good at restricting, and I lost weight very fast and got a lot of positive feedback and thought, this is great. Life is starting for me. I'm finally going to have a boyfriend. But that's not what happened. I gained weight almost immediately after attaining the goal weight that I had. And I gained all the weight that I had lost back, plus another 10 or 15 pounds. And that is the beginning of my history of yo-yo dieting. I have not been the same weight for more than a few months for 29 years. No, more, 35 years, because I was 15 then. So for 35 years. This year, for the first time, I have maintained body weight for over a year, and it has shocked my doctors, pleasantly shocked. But it's the first time since she's known me that I haven't been either gaining weight or losing weight.
That's great.
So I tried different diets and diet plans. And when I was 22, I came into OA. And like I said earlier, I did not believe in God. So I did not believe that there was a power greater than myself that could restore my life to sanity and that could help me achieve health. I thought I had to take care of myself. So I didn't do the steps. And I basically just had a food plan and dieted with friends. I lost the weight, as I always do when I diet, and left OA. And what followed was 28 years of my disease getting progressively worse. I would always gain back all the weight that I lost. I would lose my hair when I lost weight because I wasn't eating enough. I hurt my teeth. I started gaining more and more weight. And 3 years ago, I became very, very sick. I have a picture that I can show you.
Hey.
So 3 years ago, I weighed almost 300 pounds. And on the picture on the far left, that's where I weigh almost 300 pounds. I was severely, sorry, no, nothing like me. Yeah. I was severely diabetic. My kidneys had stopped working. I had sleep apnea. And because of the extra fat in my body, creating too much estrogen in my body, I had a precancerous condition in my uterus. So I was very sick and I got scared about the diabetes. And when my doctor sent me to a dietitian at the diabetes clinic who gave me a food plan, I was scared enough that I was motivated to adhere to it. So I've actually been in OA only a year, but I have been abstinent for almost 3 years, 32 months.
All right.
I have followed the food plan that my dietitian gave me 3 years ago for almost 3 years now.
And that picture that you just showed, the after picture, when was that taken?
That was taken.
Again?
Yes,
I love
of course.
how happy you look in that picture.
Yes, I was out with my daughter.
Look at that.
In our favorite little spot. It's a waterfall. And I was very happy there.
So
Yeah.
fit.
So fit. I mean, just two different people right there. Absolutely different.
So
Congratulations.
I lost
Great.
143 pounds and
Wow.
I've kept it off for over a year.
That's a whole person.
Yes, I lost more than I weigh now because I weigh 132.
All right. Well, I just love this. These results are amazing.
If that's not
Yeah.
testament.
To the program. And I mean, I didn't ask you earlier, but what attracted you to the program? Like who told you about the program and what it was about? How did you know to come here? Because I didn't know about it.
I saw a little notice in a newspaper 22 years ago that said, for anyone who has an unhealthy relationship with food, we have a meeting in this church basement on Thursday night. And I went, and what I learned is that everybody is welcome at an OA meeting. The only requirement for membership is the will to want to stop eating compulsively. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if you're straight or gay. It doesn't matter if you're Black or white, although many communities have not been really well served by OA, and we're still working right now to make that better. The Spanish community, the Black community, and the First Nations community are totally underserved by OA, but we're working to make that better.
That's great.
So it's an all-inclusive program, and I was desperate to stop eating compulsively, so it fit me to a T.
Another group that they accept, anorexic and bulimics, anybody who has compulsive eating. That's the reason why I never even considered Overeaters Anonymous. But when I heard that there was anorexic and bulimics that were getting help and actually getting better, I was like, this is for sure what I need. And I'm so glad I went. 71 days today, so without any binging and purging. So I'm pretty excited.
So what we understand in OA is that everybody has a higher power, but that bad things that happen to us in life and bad decisions that we've made in our life block us from our higher power. And when we're blocked from our higher power, we need to manipulate our food compulsively, either by overeating or undereating or binging and purging. But we need to manipulate our food to deal with the daily buildup of emotions that happens in everyday life. By coming to OA and working the steps, we become unblocked from our higher power and no longer need the compulsive behaviors to deal with our emotions. We deal with our emotions through our connection with our higher power and by following the steps. So the compulsive behavior can be different for almost everyone in OA. One person can have compulsive behavior around sugar, and another can have compulsive behavior around counting calories. Another can have compulsive behavior about salty foods. Some people eat in front of the TV. Some people don't eat for weeks at a time. The manifestation of the disease is different for almost every member of OA, but the solution is the same because the problem is spiritual, not physical.
Ah, that's key there. So is this something where you've actually developed a higher power within the program?
Yes, I did not believe in God when I came into the program, but I was willing to go to any length to get the recovery that people spoke of. And I didn't understand how they did it, but they said they did it through a belief in a higher power. And someone suggested to me that the fellowship itself could be my higher power. because in the fellowship, you find a lot of love and support and understanding, and you also find a lot of wisdom. And really, what more can you need from a higher power than those four things? So when I started the steps, I was willing to believe that the fellowship was my higher power. But through working the steps honestly and thoroughly, I became unblocked from my higher power, which is a power greater than myself. And I felt my fear that I had lived with my whole life disappear. And the self-loathing that I had lived with my whole life simply washed away in my connection to my higher power.
That's excellent. And that's through working all 12 steps, which you would have to if you have sponsees. Did you ever consider that you've gone through your spiritual awakening, and how was that like?
I definitely have had a spiritual awakening. The key step for me in my spiritual awakening was step 3. I did the step thinking that my higher power was the fellowship, and I was happy to do it that way. I answered the questions of the step because I worked through a workbook. I did the steps through a workbook. So I answered the questions of the step faithfully and honestly, and I moved forward. And then I said a prayer, and I felt myself connecting with something really huge. I felt a spiritual shift, just a little bit. But I went from a woman who feared everything all the time and thought that the world was ending imminently all the time. I always had that feeling that something terrible was about to happen, to a woman who feels safe and secure and loved. So I definitely have had a spiritual shift. My challenge now is to stay spiritually open to maintain my recovery, because I have recovery, I have sanity, I have peace of mind, but I'm not cured. I'm still a compulsive overeater, and I will be till the day I die. So I have recovery, which is a daily reprieve in my compulsive eating, but I'm not cured. So I have to keep working the program to stay recovered.
I understand. So it's very similar to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous that I'm also in, where we're not cured. This is a disease that we will have, but to keep it at bay, we go to meetings. So for us, if I were to take a drink, that's it. My sobriety's done. I have to start over. What would happen for you if you were to binge? I mean, just one day.
So I haven't binged since I recovered, but I have accidentally eaten a trigger food. So what happens is that OA is based on Alcoholics Anonymous, because we have found that we have different manifestations of the disease, but the solution is the same. So there are certain foods that are the same to me as alcohol is for an alcoholic. Certain foods awaken the phenomenon of craving in me. But I don't know all the foods in the world, and so haven't identified all of them. And so it did happen. I think it was last fall. It did happen that I ate something that triggered me. But it was fascinating. It was fish, marinated fish. It never even occurred to me that I would be triggered by fish.
Wow.
That sounds delicious, actually, but
Marinated herring. Yeah, marinated herring. But it was marinated in wine, and I think there's a lot of sugar in wine. So maybe that's what triggered me. I don't know. But whatever it is, I did get triggered. but it didn't lead to a binge, and it didn't lead to my breaking my abstinence because of my recovery. So what happened is that I'm not triggered all the time anymore. I am recovered. So when I did get triggered, I felt it right away.
Yeah.
There was a difference right away. And within a few bites, I recognized that I was being triggered by this food. And so I was able to stop and put it away. I actually had to throw it out. I couldn't keep it in the house.
Right.
But, I was able to stop because of the program. I had built up enough resistance to be able to stop. So, that was a great experience to show me the difference between recovery and not being recovered.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you have any dramatic changes in yourself, your attitude, your life since you have become recovered?
My life is completely different. The biggest change in me is that I'm not afraid. I feel safe for the first time in my life.
Love it.
And I don't have any self-loathing. I used to have a constant record of bad memories, things I had done badly, things that I hadn't done that I should have done, going through my head. I hated myself.
Yeah.
And that's gone. That has been washed away. And I don't have any obsessive food thoughts. I used to think about food all the time. I needed to feel full all the time. I needed to have something in my mouth all the time. I felt like I was going to die without excess food. And I don't feel that way anymore. I enjoy the food that I eat now when it's in front of me and I'm eating it. But then I eat my serving and I push the plate away and don't think about it again for the rest of the day until it's time to eat again. So
That's
I
that
have
food
peace of
neutrality.
mind.
That's awesome. That's that food neutrality you were talking about. So, for someone like me who's still pretty new, how long did it take for you to be able to have that neutrality? Do you remember how long?
Because I'm still
I
obsessed with her
remember-
food.
I remember exactly. It took me 7 weeks.
Wow.
But I was working the program 6 days a week for 9 hours a day. So I put a lot of hours into it because I wasn't working. I could devote myself entirely to the program. And I had the gift of desperation. I was willing to go to any length to get recovery. So it took me 7 weeks. And 7 weeks into the program, I woke up and I was recovered.
That's amazing. I love that. Is it hard to eat the way you do now? I guess it's typically a little more healthier, I guess, than what you ate in the past. Do you find that you have less fun, or is it still enjoyable what you eat?
So my food is completely different from what I used to eat because I only ate my trigger foods before and I don't eat any of them now. So my food is completely different. And when I first came on this food plan 32 months ago, I thought I was going to die. I literally thought I was going to die because I couldn't imagine living on this food plan. And it was really hard to stick to the food plan before I became recovered, before OA. It was a tough diet given to me by a dietitian at the diabetes clinic. It was not easy to adhere to. And I, in fact, could not adhere to it without binging on bubbly water. And I drank so much bubbly water that I started to faint. And my doctor said she would take away my driver's license because you can't drive when you're fainting all the time. And it is in that moment of complete desperation that I returned to OA. And that's why I say I had the gift of desperation, because I knew absolutely that I could not stick to the food plan that my dietitian had given me without a spiritual shift.
Mm. Wow.
But now, just to answer your question, Christine, sorry, I sort of got off on a tangent. Just to answer your question, I do very much enjoy eating. I enjoy the food that's in front of me. I enjoy the texture and the flavors, but the food is forgettable. Once I've eaten it, I don't think about it anymore. If there are, 3 more servings of it in the fridge, I don't stay up at night thinking, oh my God, I want to eat them. I don't think about the food anymore. I enjoy it while it's in front of me, but I don't think about it throughout the day.
Well, in the past, you had mentioned that you had used food to numb the fear that had existed in your life. Now that you don't have foods to numb your feelings, how do you deal with your feelings today?
I deal with them the 12-step way, which is to give them to my higher power. So I believe that my higher power is keeping me safe and is giving me exactly the life that I should be leading. And if something scares me, like a couple of weeks ago when my daughter got sick, that would have blown the top of my head 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. But now I was able to deal with those emotions in a healthy and, a healthy and responsible way. I was able to keep my sanity because I gave my fear over to my higher power.
That's great. What would you say is the hardest part about this lifestyle?
To be honest with you, there is no harder thing than the insanity of being a compulsive overeater. So this lifestyle is a choice that I am ready to make all the time. There's a price to pay for the sanity that I have today, but it is a small, small price compared to the insanity of living in the food.
That's great. And what would you say is the easiest or maybe most enjoyable part of this lifestyle for you?
For sure, it is working with my sponsees. Watching someone have a spiritual shift is so humbling and so inspiring. It really touches my heart. It's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done.
I love that. Yeah, you talked about helping others, and that's a big part. So people can only sponsor if they've done all 12 steps. And you have at least 10 sponsees, keeps you really busy. Are there any other ways that you serve? You mentioned sponsees, and then you mentioned that you also help do service work. But what does that look like?
So I speak at meetings. I share my experience, strength, and hope at certain meetings. I also lead certain meetings so that there's a structure to all OA meetings, and you need a leader, a volunteer who will say whose turn it is next to speak, and so on and so forth. So I do that. I lead a lot of meetings. I also have started a face-to-face meeting in my area, and I'm the intergroup rep for that meeting. Wow. And I'm sort of helping. It's not an official position, but I'm helping a fellow publish a newsletter for OA.
That's great. So you are indeed very, very busy and active in OA. If you could turn back the clock, what would you tell your younger self
Oh my
before?
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Work the steps, Dorit. Work the bloody steps. Just do it. Just do it and recover.
Yes, I know it. It seems so simple. And that's what they say. These are simple steps. They're not easy, but they're simple. They're laid out for us in a book, and it's just a matter of us following the directions and doing them. So, would you say that there is a stigma? This is an easy question, actually. I know, like for alcoholics, it's a stigma for us to be called alcoholics. People generally think of alcoholics as the dirty bum under the bridge with their bottle in a bag. When you think about a compulsive overeater, what type of stigma comes to mind? And I know this might bring back memories of when you were younger, and I'm sorry for that. I think that's horrible, the type of bullying that happens. But do you think that there's still a stigma today in this society against people that have food issues?
Yeah. So, like you said, there are different people in OA. Some are underweight, some are right sized, and some are overweight. I have never been underweight, but I have been regular sized and I have been morbidly obese. And I can tell you that there is definitely a stigma around being fat in our society. It is an absolute fact. There is, a lot of stigma around being fat. My sponsees who are anorexic say that there's also a stigma around being underweight.
Mm-hmm.
For women, especially, not having big boobs.
Yeah.
There's a stigma around that. People shame you if you don't have big boobs, or if you don't have good teeth, or if you don't have nice hair, all things that anorexics suffer from. So I think whichever way your disease manifests itself, there is definitely an issue of stigma in our society.
Absolutely. And I have that. I've experienced being underweight with my anorexia, and the hair loss. As I've said in other episodes, I have to wear a wig to cover the bald spots that my hair has now. I've had to get new teeth. Half my teeth is not mine because of the bulimia. And I was also what they call in the program 100-pounder twice, which means I lost 100 pounds, but twice in my life. So at 2 times in my life, I was also obese. I was 226 pounds at my highest. And I can attest to that the stigma is definitely still there. People don't treat you the same as you do when you're a normal sized body. And it's a shame, but it's so great to know that there's a place out there that people that have that type of difficulty can go to get help so that they don't have to deal with the stigma. I'm still trying to fight the stigma anyway to see if we can get people just to be more accepting in general, because everybody needs help. We all have something. But I think that the stigma is definitely there. I experienced it myself. And let's see, it's about your past. What do you feel was your worst memory from your journey?
I have a couple of bad ones around my daughter. I feel it's one thing that my compulsive eating affected me negatively. I can sort of deal with that, but it's harder to forgive myself how it affected my daughter. And one day when she was 9, she went to Girl Guides at the time, and she brought back home a carton of Girl Guide cookies. And I don't remember now if there were 26 or 48 boxes of Girl Guide cookies in that carton, but she was supposed to sell it to our neighbors, as Girl Guides do. Well, I ate it all in that one night.
Oh.
I ate the whole carton of cookies because I couldn't have cookies in the house without eating them. And when she noticed the next day that the cookies were gone, I felt so ashamed. She said, "What happened to the cookies?" I said, "I don't know." I couldn't admit to her that I had eaten them. And I said, "Someone must have come into the house and taken them." And I didn't think that that would make her feel unsafe. But she heard a stranger came into the house and took something of mine.
Right.
And had trouble sleeping for like a couple of weeks. Oh. She didn't feel safe in her own house. And I did that to her because of my compulsive eating.
Sorry, that's such a heartrending story. What about today? We flipped that around. What are some things that you love about yourself now?
I love the fact that my experience can inspire other people to find a higher power and to give up self-loathing for the love and self-respect that you get in this program. Yes,
I love that about you too. And a couple more questions, basically for newcomers. Actually, one good one, I guess, would be, what would you consider the best suggestion to give to a newcomer coming into Overeaters Anonymous?
Work the steps right away.
Work the steps right away.
The fellowship that you find at meetings will go a long way in helping you not feel alone, because we have a disease of isolation and secrecy. And going to meetings breaks the back of that disease and is an important step in finding recovery. But there is no recovery in meetings. You have to work the steps to recover.
Amen to that. Is there anything else that we did not cover that you wanted to share today?
No, thank you. Your questions have been really great.
Oh, thank you. Your answers have been even better. I mean, this is really going to help a lot of people. I just want to thank you again for agreeing to come on and sharing your story. It was very impactful. So I appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and end it here. But I just want to give you a virtual hug. And I think I might have to catch you on Tuesdays when you're chairing your meetings, because even though this show isn't, we're not affiliated with any 12-step programs, I'm just a really big fan of them. So I think anything that's going to help other people, let's share it. So I'm glad that you agreed to share it with me, and I just adore you. So thank you, Dorit.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Christine. Thank you for listening to me and allowing me to be of service. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'll let you get to your life, your beautiful life, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Good luck with your podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.